Lesson analysis assignment. This assignment is worth 50 points. You can complete 1 or 2 of these assignments. Keep in mind that you will need to actually teach this lesson in order to analyze it, and you need to plan this lesson ahead. You cannot use a lesson that you've already taught, because before you teach the lesson, you will need to perform an assessment. And that assessment can be done with a whole group, or with a whole class, or with a small group. But the assessment data will need to be turned in with the final lesson plan. Okay, so the lesson plan can be in any of the areas of literacy that we are working on. You will follow this checklist for the lesson plan. All of these things should be self-explanatory. I will emphasize that in writing your student objective, you want an action verb, a criteria or a degree, like what percentage of the students do you expect, or what percentage of accomplishment do you expect, and conditions. Will the student perform this on his or her own? Will they give a verbal or a written response? Make sure that's all clear in your objective. The information on your students, some ideas that you could put in that section would be demographic information, but more important to me are what are their strengths and weaknesses in the area of literacy that you're teaching. What do they like to do? What do they not like to do? When you observe them, how do they behave? What makes them happy? Those are some things that I really want you to start looking at your students and thinking about, so I want you to put that information into your lesson plan. The assessment, again, the assessment has to match the objective. It can be informal, and in fact, you must have a plan for informal assessment. So how do you know what the students are learning while you're teaching? You can also, if you want to, include a more formal assessment, such as a work product or a quiz or a piece of written work. If you do a writing assignment and a writing assessment, that assessment has to be either a rubric or a checklist. Okay, so then the final thing that you'll do is you'll compare the lesson assessment with the pre-assessment. So you'll have some data on what the kids know already, and then you'll get some kind of assessment from the lesson, and you'll compare those two pieces of assessment. And you'll write a paragraph describing what you learned from the assessment in this lesson. Did they learn what you thought they would learn? Were they further along or not as far along as you thought they would be based on the pre-assessment? Did they meet your objective? Did you set a reasonable objective based on the pre-assessment, or did you find that the objective was too high or too low for the students you were working on? Those are all things that you can include in your final analysis of this lesson. If you have any questions about this, with all of our assignments, you can submit your questions through the forum on Moodle.